At this point, I'd like to remind you to take off any non-school approved jackets. School is about to begin, as well as put away your cell phones. Thank you. We're going to ask at this point the youth chorus to take their places on the risers. So please do that quickly and quietly.
Scott, that mic is live, just so you know. And you're going to want to capture this when they start singing.
He's not in the chorus.
I don't know, and he's on his phone.
Yeah. Oh, he's waving at somebody by the door. But Brigham's right there.
Thank you. It looks like they're all loaded, so we'll begin. Welcome to our Veterans Day Assembly, students. We are so appreciative of the veterans and all that they have done for each one of us. The price of freedom costs a lot. And the liberties and the freedoms that we enjoy in the United States of America have been fought for and defended and preserved for many, many years. It's our honor and privilege today to welcome you to this Veterans Assembly, and we ask you to take time to ponder and to think about those that you know that have served and are currently serving our country in the defense of freedom. We're going to begin this morning with an opening prayer by Eleanor Howard, after which we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Jasmine Van Langen. And we'll take it to that point.
Our dear gracious Heavenly Father, we're so grateful for this day, and we're grateful that we could come to school to learn. And please bless on everyone performing, that they will be able to perform to the best of their abilities and have fun. And we're grateful for everything that we're about to learn and everything that everyone has prepared for us. And please bless on the missionaries and everyone serving us. In Jesus Christ, amen.
In honor of one nation, under God, please stand with me and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will now be favored to hear two numbers from our youth chorus, Simple Praise and Count Your Many Blessings. And then I will introduce the remainder of the program. A cappella, remember that following our speaker, you will be coming to sing Battle Hymn at the end. So without further ado, we'd like to welcome Mr. Rob Swinson and Mrs. Dixie Choquet and the American Heritage Youth Chorus.
For the unfolding
Thank you to our Heritage Youth Chorus. We appreciate that spirit of music that you brought with you today. Next, we will hear from Caitlin Norton. She is a senior this year, and last year she had a scholarship where she was able to go with several other students from around the country and be in Valley Forge. So she's going to share with you some of the things that she learned while she was there at Valley Forge firsthand. Caitlin.
The Freedom Foundation at Valley Forge was founded in 1949 with the mission of educating Americans about their rights and responsibilities as citizens of this great nation. One way the Freedom Foundation does this is with trainings for kids and teachers. I was selected to go to one of these trainings. I flew across the country with people I barely met to be immersed in history and patriotism in the incredible spirit of Valley Forge. We stayed in dorms on the beautiful campus. We learned about parliamentary procedure, debate, and compromise as we presented and amended bills. We learned about capitalism and our free market and then pitched products of our own. These included a brush that has storage compartments for on-the-go cosmetics and cookie cutters shaped like Lincoln Logs to add more fun to mealtime. We heard from incredible speakers, including a former CIA agent who had been buddies with the Pope during the Cold War. We met Thomas Jefferson and John Adams and learned so much. I would love everyone to have this opportunity to go through this training. To be in Valley Forge, where men lived and died for the ideals I was learning about, affected me greatly. My experience at Valley Forge deepened my gratitude and my sense of responsibility. I am grateful for all those who have sacrificed to give us the most unique country in the world. I am grateful to be able to honor their sacrifices by educating myself through the Freedom Foundation at Valley Forge. Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin. At this time, I'd like to introduce to you Judge Kelly Schaefer Bullock, who is responsible for our speaker today. She and her family have done a lot of work at bringing him here. He's come from, not Utah, right? From way across Colorado, to speak with us today, Colorado Springs. So without further ado, let's give Judge Kelly Schaefer Bullock a round of applause as she introduces our speaker.
Thank you for that introduction. It would be remiss of me though, while yes, our family helped coordinate bringing Tom Tudor here, it was Mr. Chase Hale's idea. And so it sprung from a conversation we just had where I was talking about Tom. And this really is, Caitlin's remarks were so apropos. Right before Tom Tudor, she spoke of the spirit at Valley Forge, where men had died, and the appreciation that brought to her. And Tom Tudor is a former sentinel of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. He's former sergeant. He served in the U.S. Army's 3rd Infantry Regiment, called the Old Guard, as sentinel and then commander of the relief at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier from February 1969 until Memorial Day of 1970. He began speaking about Arlington National Cemetery and the tomb in 1987. Tom was the featured speaker at the National World War II Museum in New Orleans on Memorial Day in 2016. His talk has aired on C-SPAN 3, American History Television. He has spoken at the Gerald Ford Library and Museum, as well as the Herbert Hoover and Dwight Eisenhower Libraries. And Tom is also a past president of the Society of the Honor Guard, Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. I happen to be a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution. And one of the purposes of our organization is to ensure that those first patriots that Caitlin went and studied are not forgotten. What Tom has done in his life is make sure that those soldiers who went and fought and died overseas and never returned home are not forgotten. E pluribus unum, out of many one. And for those who grieved, for soldiers who never returned home, there's the one to represent the many. There's a Jewish refugee who came here before World War II, who then became a nurse and went over and became the first female casualty of Normandy and D-Day. The Germans, unfortunately, were targeting the hospitals. But one of the things that she remarked in her personal correspondence was she gave a tribute to the American GI. But those men, most of them boys, suffering in agony in those field hospitals, she said, wives and girlfriends forgotten, they always called out for their mothers. And think of all the mothers at home who might have felt those agonized cries of sons so far away and then had no place to go when they didn't return home. The tens of thousands of Americans who filed past the American soldier who was to represent the money, wondering if all Americans were paying tribute to their son, their brother, father, uncle. I talked about the years of service for Tom Tudor. There are many ways to give your life. And as I was working with the Daughters of the American Revolution for the centennial honoring of the Tomb of the Unknown, I was actually able to get in touch with Tom Tudor. And unhesitatingly, every time I've asked him to do something, he says yes. And he came from Colorado Springs. It makes sense that you would think of from Virginia, because that's where he frequently goes, back to DC and Virginia, to be with his colleagues. But he came here today so that those known but to God will never be forgotten, that their sacrifices will never be forgotten and will be honored. And so please help me in welcoming Tom Tudor, former Sentinel, to the United States.
Thank you so much, Heather. I'm honored to be here today and to speak to such a group as yours. I was given a huge gift as a 20-year-old soldier in the United States Army when I volunteered for and was selected to serve as Sentinel and then Commander of the Relief at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier from February 15th, 1969 until Memorial Day of 1970. And of those 15 and a half months that I spent at the tomb, every third night I slept in the cemetery. Not outdoors, but in our quarters beneath the National Memorial Amphitheater. We had a bunk room where if we could get some sleep during the night, we had a 6-hour window to get some sleep during the night. We took it. And very often you would come down from duty at 3 o'clock in the morning, and February morning, and you would look for the warmest bunk to crawl into because you wanted that warm bunk. Our friends that we worked with, that we guarded the tomb with, became our brothers for life. So Arlington is the final resting place of over 400,000 American servicemen and women and their next of kin. And you don't visit Arlington, you experience it. So if you have never had an opportunity to go, I recommend it to all Americans. And don't just do the jump off the bus, see the changing of the guard, jump off the bus, see President's grave, and then go away. I suggest you spend a full day walking around, looking at graves, reading the names and the dates, and how old were they? How old was this person when they lost their lives? And you were mentioning the nurses. There's a section in Arlington, section 21, called the nurses section. And there are 854 American nurses buried in section 21. Read those names and the dates they lived. There's no spouse on the back because they didn't live long enough to marry. So sacrifice not only belongs to the soldier, it belongs to the American nurse and all who have perished in service to this great country. So I got to be one of these guys. and that is I. This photograph was taken on the 15th of June of 1969, upon the 4th month anniversary of my first ever walk on the mat at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. And this is the tomb. Beneath this slab rest the remains of a soldier from the Second World War, one of 87,850 who went missing, Americans who went missing in that war. Beneath this slab lie the remains of a missing soldier unknown from the Korean War. Was, some people call it the conflict. When they're shooting at you, it's a war. Okay, so and then in the middle, this was taken in 1969, before the Vietnam unknown was interred, and I'll tell that story very briefly. But it was the first day I got to wear this badge upon my right breast pocket. This is called the Tomb Guard Identification Badge. And in the Society of the Honor Guard Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, we have a motto, just like the Boy Scout motto is, be prepared. Our motto is, soldiers never die until they are forgotten. Tomb guards never forget.
What does he want us to do with this?
So there's something else we hold dear, and it's called the Sentinel's Creed, and it goes like this.
I can't see.
My dedication to this sacred duty is total and wholehearted. In the responsibility bestowed on me, never will I falter. And with dignity and perseverance, my standard will remain perfection. Through the years of diligence and praise and the discomfort of the elements, I will walk my tour in humble reverence to the best of my ability. It is he who commands the respect I protect, his bravery that made us so proud, surrounded by well-meaning crowds by day, alone in the thoughtful peace of night. This soldier will in honor and glory rest under my eternal vigilance. We take that to heart. And the Sentinel's Creed was not written by a sentinel. The Sentinel's Creed was handed to a relief commander after a guard change, last guard change of the day, in the late spring of 1971. And it said at the bottom, Simon, 1971. We don't know who Simon is or where Simon is, if Simon still lives. But Simon wrote it, and we embraced it immediately. And I will come back to this, to the Sentinel's Creed at the end. So then, of course, the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier was established in the wake of the Great War. It was a great war because it involved so many nations. Approximately 13 million perished between 1914 and 1918. 116,000 Americans died on active duty, including 430 of the Army Nursing Corps. But Great Britain, with a much smaller population than ours, lost almost 900,000. That's why Remembrance Day in the former British Empire, or British Commonwealth, is such a big deal. Canada lost 56,000 with a very small population. France lost 1.4 million, 4% of their population. If we lost 4% of our population today, that would be approximately 13 million. Can you imagine a conflict in which 13 million Americans died? That's what the French, that's comparatively what the French endured in 1914 and 1918. And on the second anniversary of the signing of the armistice in the Kings is where their unknown warrior dies, and they had approximately 400,000 missing in action. And that one representative is the place where all people go in Great Britain to honor those who went missing, who did not come back, to their families, to their wives, to their parents, to their siblings, to their life that they knew before they were the United States of America. The United States of America. And that legislation was signed into law on Woodrow Wilson's last day in office, March 4th, 1921. And so that put in motion the selection of an unknown soldier for the United States. And so what happened there was 4 sets of remains were disinterred. What does that mean? Disinterred. Dug up from 4 different American cemeteries. One unknown soldier from each of those 4 cemeteries, and brought to this place, the town hall of Champs-sur-Marne in France, where they were put in 4 identical caskets. And Sergeant Edward F. Younger was given a spray of white roses and instructed to lay those roses on one of those 4 caskets. And that casket would become our unknown soldier. So he circled the 4 caskets. He lay the roses on the second from left, and when asked later why he chose that one, he said, "I felt something coming from that casket as if it were someone I had trained or fought with, someone I knew." So that's why he chose that second casket from the left. And those remains were placed in a special casket, and here they are coming out of the place of selection, which was Chalon-sur, the town hall at Chalon-sur-Marne, France. American flag, when it's moving, always the stripes precede, the stripes go first. And so he's coming out. He will be carried to the train. Notice on top of the casket the flowers that were used to select him. And the officer following is John J. Pershing, who was the commander of the American Expeditionary Force, General of the Armies, plural, the only person to hold that rank in his lifetime. George Washington held it posthumously. And then to the USS Olympia, and the Olympia bears him across the North Atlantic in late October and November, and it was a rough crossing. The North Atlantic isn't too kind that time of year. They were fearful of the capsizing of that big ship, but it did not capsize, and it got to the naval shipyard, and they brought the remains to the Capitol building and then to Arlington, where he was laid to rest on the 11th of November, 1921, the 3rd anniversary of the signing of the armistice that ended the horrible slaughter of the First World War. So in the bottom of this crypt, at the bottom of this hole, there is a layer of soil 2 inches thick, brought over from the battlegrounds of France, so that this American unknown soldier is forever lying on the French soil that he died defending. So he will, in perpetuity, lie on the French soil that is at the bottom of this crypt. So the tomb looked like this. This is not the tomb we have today, but the tomb looked like this from 1921 to 1931. And this young woman, wearing mourning clothes, M-O-U-R-N-I-N-G, not M-O-R-N-I-N-G, mourning clothes, could not be here if the tomb were guarded. The tomb was not guarded from 1921 until 1925. And one day, in November of 1925, an American veteran came around the corner and found a family who had spread out a blanket across the top of the tomb, and they were sitting on top of the tomb enjoying a picnic lunch. He chased them away, and he went to the White House. And he went through the gate of the White House. And he walked up to the White House and rang the doorbell, and someone answered, and he got in to see the President of the United States, then Calvin Coolidge. That wouldn't happen today, would it? You couldn't get close to the White House without an escort. But, and Coolidge agreed that was wrong. And the next day, he put a civilian guard at the tomb of the unknown soldier. And then, March 25th, 1926, the United States Army took over. The U.S. Army has always had the duty of guarding the tomb of the unknown soldier. No other service. The Army, because it is the senior service, established by the Continental Congress, 14th of June of 1775. The Marine Corps followed about 5 months later in November of 1775, November 10th. Of course, that is today is the Marine Corps' birthday. So happy birthday, all you Marines out there. I don't think there are too many in this crowd. But happy birthday, USMC, Semper Fidelis. But the tomb was guarded in the daylight hours only. And the tomb looked like this. But in 1931, this tomb took its place. The 3 figures on the front of the tomb. To the left, it is peace with a dove in her hand. To the right is valor with a sword. And in the center is victory, embracing them both. And there are 6 wreaths on each side. The wreaths are open at the bottom. They are not closed at the bottom. They are open at the bottom. These are wreaths of mourning. A wreath of victory is open at the top. Okay, a wreath of mourning is inverted. A wreath of sadness is inverted. So there are 6 of them. 1 wreath for each of the 6 major battles that the United States fought in the First World War. And one day in 1937, it was discovered that someone had been coming in at night. Someone had come in at night with a hammer and chisel and knocked pieces off the wreaths, figures to take home as souvenirs. It was repaired, and at midnight, July 2nd, 1937, a 24-hour guard was posted. The tomb has been guarded non-stop ever since midnight, July 2nd, 1937. And I had the privilege of 15 and a half months of that continuity, okay, that continuum of guarding the tomb. And I got to be 15 and a half months of those now 85 years that the tomb has been guarded 24/7 to ensure that nobody dishonors or vandalizes the tomb of the unknown soldier. So, in 1958, aboard the USS Canberra, at sea off the Virginia coast, this is the selection of the World War II unknown. The gentleman on the right with the wreath is Corporal William Charette, the only active duty enlisted man in the Navy at the time with the Medal of Honor, is picking the casket on the right. The casket on the far left was one of the other two candidates for World War II unknown. That individual will be buried at sea shortly after this ceremony, and the casket in the middle is the casket of the Korean War unknown, already selected in Hawaii, because all of the Korean unknowns were buried in the same place, the National Memorial Cemetery of the Pacific on Oahu. So they come to the Capitol building, where they lie in state for 48 hours, and it made me ill to see people rampaging through the Capitol Rotunda. January 6th, this sacred place for the unknowns, for all the presidents who lie in state in the Capitol Rotunda. But this was 1958, right before Memorial Day of 1958. The pedestal, one of the two pedestals, is the pedestal that bore the body of Abraham Lincoln. And in the middle of those 48 hours, they switched pedestals so that each unknown, World War II in Korea, lay on the Lincoln pedestal for a full 24 hours. And then off to Arlington on the 30th, Memorial Day of 1958. And you all know who that is, right? Not just some bald guy, okay? Dwight David Eisenhower, 34th President of the United States. I had the privilege of serving at his funeral at the Capitol building, opening car doors for dignitaries. Shah of Iran, Haile Selassie, Speaker of the House McCormick, and last George Romney. And at the end of the services, I saw a staff car coming towards me. I laid a salute upon that staff car, and inside the staff car, I saw a hand come up and return my salute, and there were 5 stars on the epaulette. Omar Bradley returned my salute at his buddy Ike's funeral. But President Eisenhower is bestowing medals of honor upon the unknowns here. And then there's just before the flag folding. And if you look in the upper right-hand corner, you see a building up there. That's the Pentagon. That's the site of the Pentagon that was hit by Flight 77 on September 11th, 2001. So then this is the ceremony far left. That is President Ronald Reagan presiding over the interment of remains that were believed to be unknown from Vietnam. Please notice the 2 little spikes up here on this what we call the Sentinel box. Those remains were really never unknown. On May 11th, 1972, First Lieutenant Michael Joseph Blassie, a 1970 graduate of the U.S. Air Force Academy, just a few miles north of where I live, was shot down over An Loc, Vietnam. His wingman said he saw ground fire coming up, go through Blassie's plane. Blassie's plane rolled over, went in a fireball. 6 months later, they went in to retrieve his remains. What they found was wreckage of an A-37 Dragonfly. They found artifacts consistent with the Dragonfly, but they found 4 ribs, a humerus bone, and part of a pelvis. No skull, no helmet. Don't have to describe what happens to a body that lies in the jungle floor for 6 months in Southeast Asia. But they found those scant human remains. They bundled them up, and they found one other thing: a wallet with a picture ID of Michael Joseph Blassie in it, and money. And finally, back in Saigon, the remains got there, the artifacts got there, but the wallet did not. And with the wallet was the best proof of who that was. That ID card was missing along with the wallet, stolen probably for the money that was in it. So, Michael Joseph Blassie was finally identified through mitochondrial DNA in 1998, and then properly interred at the Jefferson Barracks National Cemetery near St. Louis, Missouri, where he lies today. Silver Star, Distinguished Flying Cross, Purple Heart, Air Medal with 4 oak leaf clusters. Killed in action, unknown soldier, May 28, 1984, May 14, 1998. And then, here's Michael. Now, I was young once, my daughters don't believe me, but this photograph was taken at basic combat training, Fort Bliss, Texas, 1968. Why is this man smiling? Because he's in an air conditioning building getting his picture taken while his buddies are out in 110 degree temperature training. I joined them shortly thereafter. But like anybody who had any college, I had 2 years at the University of Iowa. Like anybody who had any college, I got sent to infantry school. Well, why would they send college people to infantry school? Well, because maybe the light bulb would go off and they would say, maybe I should go to OCS to become a second lieutenant. And so I went to infantry AIT. Here I am with my buddy Dufross. Second week I was there, I volunteered for the old guard. And lo and behold, 7 weeks later, I got assigned to Fort Myer, Virginia. And virtually all of the rest of my training company went to Vietnam to go out in the field. I cannot look at the wall because I don't want to know who didn't make it. My good buddies, fortunately, I've looked up all my good friends and they all came back. But I got to Fort Myer, Virginia, there were 900 guys in the battalion, but only 12 doing this job. And that is I. And if you notice 2 things, no insignia of rank and no name tag. We could not outrank the unknowns, so we wore no insignia of rank, and we were to be as nameless as the unknowns, so we wore no name tags. On Halloween of 1969, I became commander of the relief, and then I became the guy who changed the guard. I became the guy who went out and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? I am Sergeant Tudor of the United States Army, commander of the relief tomb of the unknown soldier. It is requested that visitors remain silent and standing during the changing of the guard. All military personnel in uniform should render the hand salute upon the commands of present arm. Thank you." That would begin the changing of the guard. So I did that for 7 months. Then, this is the National Memorial Amphitheater. This seats 5,000 people. I'm going to take you up to the top here and we're going to look straight down. And here's what we see. This is where the sentinel walks. 21 steps, halts, faces, stands for 21 seconds. Turns back down the mat, changes shoulders with a weapon, stands for 21 seconds. Why 21? 21, the rendering of full military honors of the 21-gun salute, constantly, repeatedly, over and over and over. And I figured in 8 months that I walked the mat, I passed the middle point about 20,000 times. And tomb guards walk in such a way that the head does not bob up or down or move side to side. There's a glide. If you couldn't glide, you couldn't be a guard. 21 steps, halt, face, stand, 21 seconds. People would, in my day, these chains went right around the end of the mat. People could get very close to you, almost enough to touch you. They would make faces, tell you jokes. And if they got loud, then you would come to port arms with a weapon. It is requested that visitors maintain a mature and reverent attitude in the vicinity of the tomb. If somebody came across the chains, it is requested that visitors remain on the outside of the chains. If a little kid came under the chains, we didn't bayonet little kids. It is requested that parents keep their children on the outside of the chains. But those are the 3 things that we could say. We couldn't talk to anybody. When we came up to duty on the mat, our job was to keep people away from this, okay? keep people away from here. This is the World War I unknown. This is the Korean War, World War II unknown, and this is the empty Vietnam crypt. And it was rededicated in 1999. It says honoring and keeping faith with America's missing servicemen, 1958 to 1975. What could challenge us was the unexpected. One day I was down at this end of the mat. I just turned back and I heard the largest bumblebee I'd ever seen in my life landed on the tip of my nose. What did I do? I did what I was trained to do. Absolutely nothing. I didn't look at him. I didn't, none of that. That didn't happen. And he sat there for about 10 seconds and then he flew off. And boy, was I relieved when he flew away. About 2 weeks before I became relief commander, over here, waiting for the guard change to begin, I saw something coming at me on the ground. A little baby squirrel jumped up on the toe of my right shoe, then proceeded to climb my leg inside my trousers. This is not good. He got up to about here and decided that wasn't a very cool place to be, and he left, and boy, was I relieved when he left. And I tell you what, if anything in my 15 and a half months challenged my resolve and my self-discipline, it was having a baby squirrel crawling up my leg. And baby squirrels and kittens have sharp claws, about the same, okay? So, but he finally left, and I was greatly relieved. But I have one other story to share. This couldn't happen today because you can't get close to the sentinels anymore. One of our guys had just walked to this end of the mat, halted and faced, and he heard weeping and footsteps approaching from behind. And the footsteps stopped right behind him at the chains, within a few feet of him. And a female voice says to him, my son disappeared in France in 1944. This is the only place that I have. God bless you, son, and thank you. And the footsteps went away. He never saw her, but he knew here why this place is so special to a certain class of people whose loved ones did not come back. Missing in action, but this is their place. This is their place. And somebody asked me at the World War II Museum, when will we quit guarding the tomb of the unknown soldier? And my answer is when there no longer is a United States of America. So, this is our whole crew. The gentleman in the center is Sergeant First Class Joseph Dees. They're all guys, we have guys from all over the United States serving in my time. This is my crew. I'm in the center. We're all 6'2" and 3/4, plus or minus 1/8 of an inch. We all weighed 175 pounds, plus or minus 3 pounds. We all had 30-inch waists. Those days are long gone. But I will end as I began with the Sentinel's Creed. My dedication to this sacred duty is total and wholehearted. In the responsibility bestowed on me, never will I falter. And with dignity and perseverance, my standard will remain perfection. Through the years of diligence and praise and the discomfort of the elements, I will walk my tour in humble reverence to the best of my ability. It is he who commands the respect I protect, his bravery that made us so proud. Surrounded by well-meaning crowds by day, alone in the thoughtful peace of night, this soldier will in honor and glory rest under my eternal vigilance. Simon, 1971. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you for your dedication and for your service. We are thankful to all of those who have given their last full measure of devotion in honor of our country. May we do our part to live. May we do our part to study, so that we can preserve the freedoms that have been fought for, not only for this country, but for those across the world. As you learn and as you grow, you too can give service. Tom, we have just a small token of our appreciation. These are George Washington's Rules of Civility. Do you know them yet?
I guess I will.
Yes, you will. Wonderful. And this is Quotables by George Washington, as well as David McCulloch's The Course of Human Events. So again, let's give him one more round of applause. Thank you. At this time, we'll have the Acapella Choir come and sing our final number, Battle Hymn of the Republic, after which our closing prayer will be offered by Anne-Marie Gibbs. you again to the acapella choir. 2 important announcements I need to make you aware of. Tonight, the West Point Glee Club is coming to perform in the arena. It's a free performance. It's rare that they are coming. They have 2 performance venues. Here, tonight, and music and the spoken word on Sunday morning. So that's an honor that we are able to host them at our school this evening. Also, if you would like to learn more about the Price of Freedom and World War II, don't miss the 11th on Veterans Day itself, or the 12th. The performance will be featuring our Lyceum Philharmonic Orchestra here, and special guest artists, again, to give honor and tribute to those who have given their lives. Please straighten the chairs on the way out because they are set up for that performance. And we will now have a closing prayer by Anne-Marie. Anne-Marie.
Dear Father in heaven, we are so grateful for this day that we are able to come to this assembly, and we're so thankful for Sergeant Tudor, who's able to help us gain a better appreciation of the veterans and all those who are currently serving. We're so thankful for this amazing campus that we have and all those who helped it come about. Just bless us, pray that it can be with us today. And we say these things in Jesus Christ's name.